Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Francesco Bagnaia admitted his Sepang weekend left him with a bitter taste in my mouth. Despite a clear return to form, pole and a sprint win, that underlined the speed he can still find. A puncture in Sunday's Grand Prix, compounded by a front-tyre call that didn't pay off, turned what looked like a restored momentum into frustration just before the season's penultimate rounds. World Superbike sensation Nicolo Bulega is set for one of the biggest moments of his career, his MotoGP debut with the factory Ducati team at Portimao. Called in to replace the injured Marc Márquez for the final 2 rounds of 2025, Bulega admitted feeling happy and a little nervous ahead of his step up to the Premier class. The 25-year-old Italian will not only race at Portimao but will also begin testing duties for Ducati as part of their long-term development program, putting him firmly on the radar for a full-time MotoGP seat in the coming years. Michele Massini, sporting director of the Gresini team, has been a quiet but decisive presence behind the recent renaissance of both Marquez brothers. In an interview with AS, Massini charts how Marc's move away from Honda and into a new environment began as a search for joy, and how that joy ultimately rebuilt speed and results. What follows is a portrait of humility, family influence, and the simple chemistry between rider and machine. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. After a run of mixed results, Bagnaia rediscovered pace in Malaysia. He took pole and converted that speed into a sprint victory, a reminder of the class that made him a multiple champion. "We were competitive all weekend. This was something we'd been missing in the last few GPs." That weekend suggested the pieces can still come together for Bagnaia. Pace is there, and confidence seemed to be returning. The Grand Prix unraveled when Bagnaia suffered a puncture while on a medium front tire, a call that left him vulnerable late in the race and ultimately forced a DNF. He confirmed the medium front choice was wrong for race conditions and that the puncture denied what might have been a podium finish. Small equipment choices and one unlucky failure combined to turn a strong weekend into a bitter aftertaste for rider and team. The lost points mattered. Bagnaia leaves Sepang still fighting for third in the championship, but the gap has narrowed. He sits 5 points behind Marco Bezzecchi as the title fight for the podium places tightens. In a condensed championship scramble, every DNF has extra weight. Bagnaia's Sepang misfortune therefore has real standings consequences. Bagnaia will have a different factory teammate for the next rounds. World SBK runner-up Nicolo Bulega steps into cover for the injured Marc Márquez at Portimao and Valencia. The temporary switch reshuffles the garage dynamic and gives Bagnaia a new partner on whom Ducati will lean for feedback and race support. Bagnaia framed Portimao as a distinct test. "Portimao is certainly a unique track with particular characteristics," he said, stressing the need to replicate Sepang's riding confidence there. He wants to carry the positive feelings from Malaysia into Portugal and recover the consistency that has been missing. Portimao's undulating layout will demand confidence and tire management, an ideal place to measure whether Sepang was a genuine turning point or a brief flash of form. Sepang offered both promise and pain for Bagnaia. The weekend proved he still has the speed, but the puncture turned recovery into frustration. As the season heads into Portimao, the task is clear: translate the flash of competitiveness into a clean, consistent race weekend. For Bagnaia, the objective is simple and urgent: turn the bitter taste into momentum before the final rounds. After years of inconsistency in Moto3 and Moto2, Bulega found new life in the World Superbike paddock, becoming one of Ducati's top talents. Runner-up in the 2025 Superbike standings and a former Supersport world champion, his progress has been closely watched by Borgo Panigale engineers. His Portimao call-up marks a symbolic return to the MotoGP world he once left behind. "I'm happy but also a little nervous. I want to enjoy this debut while learning as much as I can from the team and the bike." His words reflect a grounded attitude, a rider aware that this debut is less about results and more about adaptation and understanding the ZNGP GP25. Bulega got his first experience on the Ducati GP25 during a private test at Jerez last week, completing several laps under the supervision of test riders Michel Pirot and Gigi Dall'Igna's technical staff. "I have no expectations in terms of results. I just want to gain confidence with the ZNGP. Portimao is a demanding and unique track. Portimao, with its dramatic elevation changes and blind corners, will test both his physical endurance and mental adaptability. Ducati's decision to give him this opportunity signals strong trust in his ability to translate his World SBK field to MotoGP machinery." The Algarve circuit is familiar territory for Bulega. He finished runner-up there in this year's World SBK races and has already celebrated victory on the same track in World Supersport. His experience at Portimao could prove a valuable asset in navigating the jump from production-based racing to prototype speed. Having tamed the track on Superbike machinery, Bulega now faces the challenge of managing MotoGP power and electronics, a critical test for his future in the series. Even before turning a wheel in anger, Bulega has drawn encouragement from peers across paddocks. Triple World SBK champion Toprak Razgatlioglu, preparing for his own MotoGP move with Pramac Yamaha in 2026, publicly backed Bulega's chances. "Bulega is very strong, and the Ducati is a strong bike for that track. I hope he can fight for the top 10, it would be great for World SBK." Praise from Razgatlioglu, himself a symbol of crossover talent, underlines how Bulega's debut carries significance beyond one race. It represents the growing bridge between the two world championships. Nicolo Bulega's MotoGP debut is less a surprise call-up and more a natural next chapter in a career rebuilt through persistence and maturity. As he prepares to take Marc Márquez's place at Portimao, the Italian brings humility, confidence, and a touch of nervous energy, the mix every great debut needs. Whether he finishes in the top 10 or simply learns the rhythm of MotoGP, Bulega's weekend in Portugal could mark the beginning of Ducati's next homegrown success story. Massini traces Marc's arrival at Gresini to a family dynamic. Alex's renewed enthusiasm after his own growth at the team became a mirror and a comfort for Marc during his darkest period. Alex's encouragement, more than any headline or offer, helped nudge Marc toward change. "I imagine those evenings after a GP, Alex with a smile and motivation, Marc exhausted and questioning." Alex's words of comfort were decisive. The transfer wasn't purely tactical, it was a human decision sparked by brotherhood. From day one, Marc entered quietly, without pretensions. He wasn't the superstar demanding conditions, he was a rider seeking normality and a place to rebuild. That humility softened the garage and allowed trust to form quickly. Marc first had to become a happy rider again, and then he became a fast rider again. The results came. Rebirth began with a change in mood, not mechanics. Massini recalls the image that confirmed the turnaround, Marc smiling after his first run on the Ducati. That instant captured the chemistry between man and machine and signaled that the work ahead could be undertaken with desire rather than desperation. The first contact with a bike is everything. When there's chemistry, the work becomes joyful. Emotion was the precursor to performance. Sharing a garage with a 9-time world champion is a heavy burden for any teammate, doubly so when that teammate is your brother. Massini praises Alex for turning pressure into progress and for growing stronger under the gaze of Marc's legacy. As a rider, Alex had to bear the weight of Marc's presence, and he emerged stronger. Alex's resilience helped make the season a two-brother success story. 2 years after his low point, Marc is a world champion once more, now with factory Ducati, and in Massini's words, the best Marc ever, particularly in his competitive approach. The combination of mental calm and physical readiness has produced exceptional form. He's the best Marc ever, especially in his approach to racing. Competing against him today means facing a rider at his absolute peak. The comeback is not just statistical, it's a refined, steadier Marc. This season made history. Two brothers finished first and second in the championship, an unprecedented result in MotoGP. Gresini frames 2026 as a natural progression, no excuses, higher expectations, and a clear dream for Alex to claim the title. This year we wrote an incredible story. Next year we only have to reverse the positions between Alex and Marc. Alex's dream is to be MotoGP world champion. The narrative shifts from rescue to rivalry with mutual support at its core. Marc Márquez's arc, from injury and doubt, through a quiet move to Gresini, to renewed joy and renewed speed, is a reminder that recovery often precedes triumph. Gresini's portrait shows a champion remade not through spectacle but through humility, family and the simple, indispensable chemistry between rider and bike. Before he was fast again, Marc had to be happy again, and that happiness became the foundation for a fresh chapter of victory. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!